Like, you don't need to get that far ahead of ourselves to ask ourselves, well, what's going to happen then? Like, we'll know when it happens. Like, trust me, that like you, the job of having the conversation is enough of a project to start with before we talk about what's going to happen after we all have a shared understanding. Like,
Well, I mean, the, the conversation, it has to go somewhere, right? And it has to lead to some choice or some change or some realization, right? Otherwise, it's just a circle, and you can talk about the weather and get to where, well, the weather today is just like it was yesterday, and it'll be the weather again tomorrow. So there's a continuum to humanity's existence, and the there's a really broad collective intelligence that exists, but we don't have a harness for it. I mean, the internet is allowing it to be, it's kind of saying, look, you can dump everything you want all over the place, and that's, it's really cool that we're all so connected, but what are we doing with it now that we have it? And really, well, we're doing the same thing except for spewing all this information out.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So I agree that like, and I think that's, I mean, if you look at the early communities on the web, if you look at the well, if you look at, I mean, the people who I think who spawned, the idea of the web, they were asking this question too. And I think that it has just gotten lost over the years. You know what I mean? And we're all well aware that there's a shift going on, in on the planet with people, with energy, with ideas, with the choices, and just people waking up and like asking the question, like what is the question that we're all asking? And I mean, I think that's like the big picture is how do you create the context? How do you present the context so that this conversation can be had? You know what I mean? Like okay, if we want to talk about this from not just a peer to peer or like just us as people level, which I think is something that like we're all out there doing on our on our own time, like kind of like trying to be good people and helping our friends and having this conversation, blah blah blah. If you want to talk about the big picture of like governments and politically and all this kind of stuff, how do you Jesus. I mean, how do you organize a global summit? You know what I mean? And I get like this is my idea of having like if there was this. I mean, having everyone together in physical space would be amazing too. Having like this huge global summit online, which is like free and accessible and is no carbon footprint. You don't have to be flying all these people over the world to get to a place. Like you're just there. You're kind of safer because you're not. You know what I mean? Like these people in power who are like need to feel like they need to protect themselves. Maybe whatever. Like they can be where they are and get together online and have this huge global public conversation that everybody can be watching. Could you imagine if there was a global summit where everyone could watch? Like having this conversation globally? I mean, I would be there.
yeah.
I would be there listening. I would want to know like if everyone just like literally dropped the bullshit and said, "Okay, here's the leaders of all the major countries." You know what I mean? Or whatever. All the leaders come together and say, what is the question that we're trying to fundamentally ask as people today? Okay, forget that you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, and you're a Jew and a Muslim and a Christian. Like, forget all those labels. As people, what do we want? Like, what are our values? What are we trying to do? How do we thrive? What does that mean? You know what I mean? And if you can get, if you can get the leaders of the world to at least agree upon that question, I mean, hallelujah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you could get them in the same room with any kind of question, I'd be amazed if they would actually like think about it from the question's perspective rather than just try and give an answer.
Yeah,
But
like I
I
think a
mean,
lot of the questions that are being asked very superficially. Like we're looking at things that are messed up and saying, how do we fix these messed up things? Well, what if we just say, okay, the messed up things are messed up because they're broken. So what is it that we want to create? You know what I mean? Like this is only going to get worse until we create a new system to replace it.
that's my deal.
Huh?
I want peace. That's my deal.
Yeah, and so what does that mean?
Well, it means I need to build a place where people can fight so that they don't use weapons anymore. Because we still want to fight. There's no doubt about it. You can't avoid the conflict.